You're the only person managing all of Europe's money, but that's not the real story. The real story is that you're doing this invisibly. The year is 1389, the year you were born. You were born in Florence, the son of a merchant. Your father's name is Giovanni de Medici. Your father is a merchant, but not just any merchant. He's someone who earns relentlessly, adding to his wealth. He teaches you something important, even as a child. Those who make noise don't win. Those who stay in the shadows do. Florence is crowded. The streets are dangerous. Guilds and nobles are at each other's throats, but you're keeping track of the numbers. You realize early on that numbers are sharper than a sword. Your father owns a bank, the Medici Bank. It's small, but it keeps growing day by day. You sit at the desks, poring over ledgers. You learn how interest works and how debt can bring a person to their knees. Even at a young age, you begin to grasp how the system operates. The church considers interest a sin, but even the Pope borrows from your father's bank. You see this contradiction, and you don't just see it. You take notes because you know this knowledge will serve you well in the future. You reach your 20s. Your father's bank is now in Rome, Venice, and Genoa. It continues to grow rapidly, spreading across Europe. Do you know who your biggest client is? The church. You are the ones managing the papacy's funds. The Christian world's treasury is in your ledgers. You go to Rome in your youth. You learn the most important lesson at the papal palace. Power is wielded not by the sword, but by money. The flow of money never stops. If you control that flow, you decide who rises and who falls. It's not the man on the throne who is powerful. It's the man who pays for that throne. You see this, and you never forget it. When you return to Florence, you leave your old self behind. You return as an even more powerful man. You watch your father. Even though he tries to live like an ordinary man, he didn't shy away from taking the seat of the Chief Justice, Florence's highest office. But he also knew that seat was a shirt of fire, and your father keeps reminding you of these words. Stay out of the public eye, he tells you. Envy is the shadow of wealth. The more you shine, the more enemies you attract. You carve this phrase into your very bones. In 1429, your father passes away. Now the bank is yours. The fortune is yours. The burden is yours. Yes, you know there's a price to pay for all this wealth. Your distrust of people and the fact that you're constantly working are your true burdens. You're 40 now. You're the richest man in Florence, but no one says it out loud. That's exactly what you want. You dress simply. You ride around the city on an old donkey. You still heed your father's words. People call you one of the people, yet most of those people owe you money. Many families, many guilds depend on your coffers. You know this. They know it too, but no one says a word. That's how power works. You're at your strongest when you're invisible. Where does your wealth come from? From interest, from debt, from the wool trade, from the papacy's taxes, from alum, that precious fabric dye. Toward the end of your life, when alum mines were discovered in Tolfa, you sowed the seeds of that monopoly. After you're gone, your family's power will color Europe's textiles in your name, but your true power comes from the fact that everyone is indebted to you. Kings are indebted to you. Cardinals are indebted to you. Rival cities are indebted to you. You don't just lend money, you sell dependence. Once someone has drawn from your coffers, they can never break free. You're the one who controls the money. So how do you collect interest? The church has banned interest. Openly charging interest is a sin, even a crime, but you find a way. You hide the interest through currency exchange transactions and exchange rates. The ledgers don't say interest, they say exchange profit. Same gold, same profit, different name. You aren't breaking the rules. You're exploiting loopholes in the rules to your advantage. That's your genius. You don't break the ban. You work around it. Everyone knows what you're doing, but no one can prove it. You stay clean and your coffers stay full. You have a rival, the Albizzi family, an old, well-established and arrogant family. They are the ones who rule Florence. They see your rise to power and they're afraid. No matter how hard you try to stay out of the spotlight, your power and wealth are plain to see. The Albizzis are taking action. They arrest you. They throw you in jail. They banish you from the city. They send you to Venice. This is where another man would give up, but you don't give up because you understand how things work and what you need to do. All you have to do is wait because your power lies not in the land, but in the ledgers. The bank comes with you, the money comes with you. Venice welcomes you with open arms because everyone needs your money. Those men left behind in Florence don't know what to do without you. The coffers are emptying, loans are defaulting. The city is gasping for breath. 1 year. Your exile lasts just 1 year. In 1434, they call you back. This time, it's the Albizzi who are being exiled. You return to Florence quietly, riding a donkey, simple once more, in the shadows once more. But now the city is yours. Your only rival is gone. You are now Florence. You are not a king, nor a prince. Upon your return from exile, you voluntarily take the highest office, the office of Chief Justice, to consolidate your power, but only for as long as necessary. Once the task is done, you quietly hand that seat over to your loyal men, because you know your true power does not lie in titles. The Republic still appears to be standing. Assemblies convene, votes are cast, decisions are made, but you are the one who determines who enters those assemblies? You orchestrate the elections from behind the scenes. You place your loyal men in those seats. The people think they're voting, yet the stage is the one you've set. That is your genius. You never sit on the throne. You stand behind it. You are the invisible hand. You are a puppeteer, but power comes at a price. You're learning that little by little. You can no longer trust anyone. Every smiling face hides an agenda. Every head that bows to you hides a desire behind it. Your friends love your money. Your relatives, they're waiting for your inheritance. You're alone. As your wealth grows, the people around you shrink, fade away, and turn into mere numbers. You accept this because there's no other way. You turn money into a weapon, but wisely, not through brute force, through art, stone, and books. You're rebuilding Florence. You commission the palaces. You restore the churches, while the guilds build that massive cathedral dome that sits like a crown atop the city. You commission Brunelleschi to build the elegant San Lorenzo, which belongs to your own family. You reserve the ostentation for the city, while keeping the true elegance within your own walls. You commission sculptures from Donatello. You establish libraries, collect ancient manuscripts, and bring back lost knowledge. Why? Is it because you have a love of art? Perhaps. But the real reason is more cold-hearted, because people don't like bankers. They don't like interest, but they love beauty. You give beauty to Florence, and in return, you receive their love, their loyalty, their silence. Every dome, every statue is a veil covering the sin of your wealth. Money is a sin, but the beauty it creates is considered sacred. You make this exchange. You also have a reckoning with your own conscience. It grows as you get older. You think about that mountain of wealth you've amassed through interest. You rose to power through the very business the church calls a sin. You're building a monastery, San Marco, with its cells and frescoes. A monk asks you why you're spending so much. Your answer is bitter. You're trying to make amends with God. Can heaven be bought with money? You don't know, but you're trying. Because death is approaching, and the gold you've hoarded won't keep you warm in your grave. You're getting old now. Your body is failing. Gout is gnawing at your joints. You're reaching the point where you can no longer walk. That sharp mind of yours is still intact, but your flesh and bones are betraying you. No matter how much wealth you have, in the end, you're only human. You look around you. Huge palaces, countless rooms, empty corridors. Your wife, Contessina, is by your side. But your sons, one of your sons, Giovanni, dies before you. A father should never have to endure the pain of losing a child. This breaks you down even further. You think about what you've left behind. A bank, a family, a city. You transformed Florence from a swamp into the center of the world. Artists thrived thanks to you. An era, the Renaissance, breathed thanks to your gold. But you paid a price. You were never truly seen. You were never cheered like a king. You lived in the shadows. You tasted power, but could share its sweetness with no one. Because to share was weakness. You never forgot that crucial piece of advice your father gave you. You strove to remain invisible. How great was your fortune? No one knows for sure. You kept the ledgers. You guarded the secrets. You were perhaps the richest man in Europe at the time. Your banks had branches in 7 different cities. Hundreds of people worked under your command. You had enough money to lend to kings. Finance wars and influence papal elections. But that wealth didn't make you happy. It only made you lonelier, more suspicious, and more on guard. You couldn't live life comfortably. Being rich meant having more to protect. Every day, someone wanted to take that wealth from you. Every day, someone was calculating how to betray you. And you spent your entire life waiting, fearing, calculating. You never slept soundly a single night, because the one who has the most to lose is the one who fears the most. You are 75 years old. You lie in your bed. That cunning, calculating, tireless mind is fading. You take your last breath just as you lived, silently. Florence is in mourning. They bestow a title upon you. After your death, they inscribe on your tombstone, Pater Patriae, Father of the Fatherland. Herein lies the irony. Throughout your life, you never sought any title, never accepted any crown. You always remained in the shadows, and only when you died, only when you could no longer speak or refuse, did they bestow a title upon you. Because a man who is no longer alive is not a threat. It's easy to love a man who is no longer alive. If you had known this, would you have smiled, or would you have simply taken note of it as you always did, without saying a word?